Today we are going to do something simple. It's a character design. I take one from my speed painting. I just did it today. Um, so I spent about 30 minutes to finish this guy up basically, but the previous speed painting that I put in 30 minutes in, he doesn't have the spike on his head and the nose ring and the eye ring. I just kind of put it that because I thought that would kind of enhance the design a little bit more. But the rest of them are total 30 minutes, which you see in the video. So I start off with the speed painting that I previously paint, and I just kind of paint over the background with just the background color that's already have. So and sometimes it's kind of sometimes I start with blank canvas, but sometimes I just start off with a random image and just to get the color in there, and so I don't have to like think about the color. What am I gonna pick? And now I'm using the lasso tool, trying to paint the wall in the back, or some kind of a mountain or cave, or some um, the entry that you get in there. So the entry will be that hollow U shape over there. That I'll put some red light in there, so it's indicate or giving it hint that it was some kind of a hill or something. It's just some kind of lava or some fire in the back. So I just kind of have that idea. And the reason I use a lasso tool to get that cave-like form, because it's got a crisp edge and I can paint it with texture brush without having to worry about it. And now start to paint his head, just a silhouette, and then I decided to maybe just gonna lasso paint this thing. But then I changed my mind. I usually, when I paint a character, I'll just paint with flat brush, using 80% to 90% to get the base. This one is a little more like an experiment, and once I get the base, then I'll just pick the layer that have a selection of the either the head or the body or the legs, and use a lasso tool to get that. And when I have the lasso tool to get that, I can just put it on the texture to get the kind of texture that I want without having to worry about it's going to go over the line or something like that. And it saved me a lot of time. And now I'm changing the structure of the figure a little bit more. I kind of taper down the body, and I kind of have the idea in mind of if I'm doing this one sort of a little more stylized than I usually do, or I'm gonna make a cute skeleton warrior guard, or the hills guard or something like that. And he's gonna have like one skeleton, sort of like a skeleton bone arm with the sword, and the other arm will be like super huge, so he can like smash people with the huge oversized arm or something. So now picking that layer of the head, and you couldn't see the lasso tool because I'm hiding it with Control H, but I'm just picking the light and the dark and trying to figure out the lighting. And if you can see, as I paint, the paint area will get into that part of the skull only and not coming off because I have a lasso or selection tool over it. So it's kind of like a mask painting, except I like I prefer lasso because mask is a little more. I don't know. Some people probably think it's easier to make a mask, but I think for me, lasso is like come and go and really quick. So I can just make a quick selection and paint that. Kind of same different. There's so many ways to make a painting or adjustment or control how you paint in Photoshop. And this is one of the way I learned. And mostly I learned this from a bunch of environmental concept artists. So now we get the body. I also do the same thing with the body, trying to get the light and shadow in there and making a selection tool or the lasso tool. And now I'm cropping the image, trying to move the background a little bit to get to make it a bigger whole area in the back, so I can maybe make an additional rim light onto the body later. That was I was thinking. So once I have that, and then I'm just cutting his arm and maybe angle it to the a little bit to the left, instead of having it straight forward. And then I think the sword is a little too close to the frame, but at this point I'll just keep on painting and see if the overall things looks right. Then I can just tweak that later. So now I'm painting shadow, which is another different layer underneath it. So usually, if you're planning, if you paint something, try to plan something ahead of time. If you have an idea of how you're gonna uh, make the structure of the element. Like in this one, I'm separating the arm, the body, and the head out. So um, so I can like make a certain selection, and it will be really quick, especially in like speed painting, and you want to save time, or you want to do a really quick concept. Then when you separate things out, then if you want something changed, it's easily changed. You don't have to like repaint everything over. But sometimes it's a lot more fun or less restrictive to just paint without having any layer, which I do that all the time. But sometimes your client require, if you can change between like the arms and the body or something like that. So it can be pretty useful when you run into that situation that your client requires some changes, so you can make changes really easy. And especially sometimes in environment, but environment is kind of complicated. And usually, if you sometimes I only have like foreground, midground, background, something in between, not so much. But the characters are slightly. You can think of it in a different term, in terms of like body part. You can have like head, arms, or whatever the part of the body that are significant, or the part of the body that are that stand out. Like in this one, you can separate just the body out, and with the leg, because the leg are really tiny, and like trying to make him stylized and cute. He could be like animated character or something like that. And also the arms, which is really big, so I separated that out also. And now I'm just painting on his head, and I'm trying to add something to his armor. And usually can come up with when I can't come up with anything, I'll just add spike, because that's what I do, kind of add spike if I can't come up with anything cool. Sometimes I add like if I have some better idea than spike, I'll add something else. But I have to keep this one within the 30-minute time frame, and I couldn't come up with anything, so I just like, well, just add a simple spike. It's easy making. And when you make spike on armor, keep in mind sometimes, on a design wise, try to keep one dominant, or maybe one two, or three dominants, or one dominant, and then you can add the rest of them that is not so dominant. Just don't make them all even. You can if you make the little ones all even, or but usually I'll just make one dominant one, especially if it's a symmetry. But if you want to make a symmetry, that's fine too, I guess. If you make it look right and fit within the design as a whole. I'm not saying you should make one dominant spike. I'm just saying if you look at design as a whole, and if it's work, then yes. But if you make all even and you look at the overall design of character and it looks cool that way, then it's cool. But this one, the nature of the character is a symmetry, and so you can add a little bit of randomness in there. And so now I'm kind of add some red, sort of like a skin patch, or I mean muscle patch or something like that. That his um, skeletor, the muscle that's kind of stuck into structure, and the muscle kind of attached to the armor along the way, sort of kind of creepy, but the cute character, um, sort of zombified muscle structure that attached to the bone and also grow into the armor, something like that, along that line, I think. um, I thought it would be kind of cool. And now I'm adding some a little more flesh onto his body. Yeah, I should use the words flesh instead of muscle, but I don't really know what the difference between these two is. I guess there's some different. But anyways, you guys got what I'm saying. And now I'm adding some more light onto the armor. And as you can see, I'm trying to get the lighting from basically the main light is going to be coming from the left of the image, because his sword is going to glow. I'll have the fire glowing sword, the sword of hell. So that's why I picked the light swords from there. And now I'm making his gauntlet and the rest of the big arm. And you can see I paint with selection this time, so you can see how I paint within the selection. But usually I'll hide it because it's get a little bit annoying. But sometimes I want to see the image more clear, then I will turn it on. And sometimes I want to add something, then I'll just deselect and just paint and add some like on his on his face. He has like a sort of like a big thick iron knuckles, so that sometimes you could probably use that for super um, move punch or something in the game, and adding a little more layer to the armor. And now I'm making his other arm wider so it look more like bone instead of just some black piece. So now, because the color now matching his skeleton a little more, and I use a dodge tool to glow his sword a little bit that attached to his arm, and I'm just gonna make some kind of glowing smoke or glowing fire, and I paint that behind the sword. That's why it doesn't um, cover the sword. And now I'm gonna go back to the top, and now I'm just gonna paint over the sword, so you have some smoke in back, so it's like surrounding it. And I'm just gonna make some sparkle. Then at this stage, oops, that's too light. I adding more light onto the head and to the body. So as you can see, I'm trying to match the light to the glow of the sword. So he glow a little bit more light onto the body. Now come, but on the other big arm, you probably won't see that much light. Now I'm trying to add some light in the crack, but I don't think that's gonna look good because it's gonna compete with the light that's coming from behind, and then the light that's coming from the sword. So I just leave that alone. Now I'm adding a little bit more shadow onto the side, and now I'm adding rim lights, which the rim lights coming from the fire that reflect from the gate, and there's more rim light reflecting the armor. More rim light. And rim lights really helps bringing out those spike on the armor, and usually really they help bring out the form better. But without the rim light, sometimes really hard to try to convey form. But with the rim light and the regular light, it can usually helps a lot with when you're trying to bring out the form. Now I'm adding some highlight onto the head. And these are the highlight from the main light source. I'm trying to add to the eye, but I don't think that looks good, so I just leave that alone. A little bit on the nose bridge, on the cheekbone. And bring the armor out a little more. Make it, I bring the light on the edge of the armor, so it's make it a little bit more bulky now, so it looks better. Add some more light onto those flesh. And he probably have like a smaller shoulder pad on the other side, which is kind of hard to see, but that's what I was thinking. And then add some more light into a certain part, and the glowing eyes. That's the fun part. Anyways, so this is the end of the video, and then later on I add the spike and a little bit of nose ring and eyebrows ring. So and this is the final result, and as you can see, I add some spike to the head, which I think looks a little bit better with that, a nose ring and brown ring, so he looked a bit more like a hipster, up-to-date kind of guy, and not kind of outdated.